Welcome to another Insider Special Report. I'm Jared Johnson, and I'm very happy to say I'm joined by Don Williams, longtime Lubbock Avalanche-Journal, basically Texas Tech and local sports savant. Don, thank you so much for joining us.
Hey, no problem, Jared. I appreciate you inviting me to come on with you for a few minutes.
Don, before we get started here, and we have our bright spots, from Texas Tech's huge, monumental 41-17 victory over Oklahoma State last week. I want to ask you, how long have you been covering the Red Raiders here for the Lubbock Avalanche-Journal?
Well, I started at the AJ in 1988, and I was fortunate that Norval Pollard, the sports editor then, he at that time was kind of where I am now, and he was kind of looking to, he'd been doing it for a long time, was kind of looking to for a new challenge or move in a different direction. So he kind of incorporated me into the beat coverage pretty quickly, and so since about 1989 with the AJ, and then before that, you know, I was real gung-ho when I was a student here and worked for the what's now the Toreador, then was the University Daily. So I was covering Tech football games, football seasons of 86 and 87 as well. 86 with 86 and 87 with guys like Colin Killian, Kim Best, Brad Walker, several others. So
I was six when you started. So we're going to tap into this ridiculous knowledge here, wealth of knowledge here. Dandy Don, as I like to call him. Don, first off, you've seen a lot of Red Raider football, as we just talked about. Where does, I guess, the surprise level or not from last week's result, where does it rank for you?
Well, this is going to sound like I'm diminishing the victory, and I don't want to diminish the victory at all, because it was vital that Tech win. It was vital that Tech won one of these first three games. I asked Cliff on Saturday night, was this a must-win considering you start conference with three ranked teams? And Cliff said, "No, I've had some must-wins now. That one last year at Texas was a must-win." And so like I say, it was vital that they won. They looked good doing it. But with that said, I've said throughout the offseason, all summer, that if Tech's going to beat Oklahoma State, this was the year to do it, because they lost Rudolph, third-team All-American, Washington, Biletnikoff Award winner, Aitman, 1,100-yard receiver, both offensive tackles, a center, Chad Whitener, the linebacker, who was second-leading tackler, Ramon Richards and Trey Flowers out of the secondary, who are kind of Oklahoma State equivalents to Jashawn Johnson. And so in our preseason preview issue, and I wrote, you know, this is probably too low, but I put Oklahoma State to finish 8th in the Big 12. Wow. I just think nobody lost more talent than that team did, and I think you saw that on Saturday night. I think Tech kind of exposed them a little bit, and I think that's the first of several losses that the Cowboys are going to take. Like I say, that sounds like I'm diminishing what Tech did, but how many times has Tech gone on the road and won a game against an opponent that was, you know, legitimate, ranked, in your conference? And so I think it was nice for them to see them do that and see them do it with authority.
What were some of the bright spots you saw that I think maybe you can take away from that and maybe help the Red Raiders have more success even this week against West Virginia?
Well, I think it's where do you start? A
lot of bright spots last week.
You know, I go back to Mike Gundy's quote, and so I'll just read it here. It's pretty simple. We got outcoached, outplayed, and they were a lot tougher than us. I think, you know, one of the bright spots is Oklahoma State, you know, with 10 minutes to go in the first half, it's Oklahoma State 17-14, and you're thinking shootout, because Tech is moving the football. Oklahoma State was really moving the football, except when Taylor Cornelius was missing passes to receivers that are pretty open. And then the complexion of the game changes, and you know, at the point that's 10-40 in the second quarter, how much money would you bet on Tech pitching the shutout the rest of the way? So defense was a bright spot. I was, you know, really impressed with the offense, particularly from the standpoint of so many people were involved. You know that Antoine Wesley's kind of been the bright spot the last couple of weeks. You know that he's not going to have a 66. He's not going to break a tackle and have a 66-yard touchdown pass every week, or make a guy look bad and have a 58-yard touchdown pass the next week. So other guys have to do it. And Jadion High, 8 more catches, 7 catches for. Let me see. 7 catches for Wesley, who's still very involved. 98 yards. He was your leader. Numbers-wise, Zach Austin was 7 catches, so you had 8, 7, and 7. Vasher had some. 3 catches. Collins 3 catches. It seemed like they all mattered at key times. Keshawn Carter 3 catches. I think going back to Jadion High with 8 catches, Zach Austin was 7.
Yeah.
And Jarrett, you and I know that, and I think a lot of the folks out there felt like when we would write, okay, Jadion High and Zach Austin are going to be guys that take counts on this year. People's reaction was, those guys haven't really done much.
Right.
Jadion's career numbers are, I don't know how many catches does he have in his career
Right.
for this year. Zach Austin hasn't even played the last 2 years because of the knee injury.
Yeah.
How much can you really count on him for? And we've seen 4 games now. I mean, Jadion's got a really nice feel for getting open and catching, great hands, catching passes.
What I like about the receiving core too, Don, just to add what you're saying is, right now it seems like when they better, defenses are focusing on the outside, the Twin Towers outside, which is giving you man coverage for High and Austin. And honestly, if they're healthy and everything, they know the system very well. I don't think that's overplayed. The part that they do know the offense, they do know where they're supposed to be, and they're going to beat man coverage out of the slot in open space more often than not.
Well, yeah, Jadion, storyline last week after the Houston game, it was his birthday. He's 24 years old.
Yeah, he's a man. He's a
I mean, think about how much knowledge that he's absorbed in the last 6 years, and how many hours he spent across the way over there in the weight room getting his body ready. And guys like Alan Bowman are the exception.
Yes.
When you're a true freshman, there's a lot of adjustment to be made, both, like I say, physically and getting your body developed, and then just everything that goes into it from a knowledge and learning standpoint. And like I say, Jadion's a guy Jadion and Zach Austin are guys who are the age of NFL receivers, and so you're starting to see that pay off in a big way now.
And then finally, the running game. I was actually surprised they were able to have that much success. I thought they would be able to throw the ball around against Oklahoma State. Well, I didn't think they would push them around the way they did. And the stat that really stood out to me, Don, was time of possession, which can be an empty stat sometimes. But 48 plus to 11 plus or whatever it was, that's a remarkable stat. Or 42, I believe, actually to 18. That's a remarkable stat. I mean, that shows the domination that you had on both sides of the ball.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I mean, running game's another plus. And I think it's another case, kind of like the receivers, where this is not. I thought that, and we wrote this at the beginning of the year. Tech would be able to rely on, okay, you have the offensive line, all those guys back,
right,
and you have a couple of running backs that have kind of proven that they can be it can be a pretty solid guy. But this has not played out at all like that.
No. Of course not.
DeLeon Ward's been on the sideline since week 2, and Trey King has been on the sideline, and so DeMarcus Felton DeMarcus had kind of fallen by the wayside and only carried the ball 22 times. It was an afterthought last year. And again, I'm always the one when people are saying, look at the great freshman. I'm usually like, hold on, wait a minute. It ain't gonna be that easy. But Deshaun Henry and SaRodorick Thompson are making it look pretty not easy, but I mean they're certainly answering the bell, as Spike Dykes used to say. And credit to DeMarcus. I would not have thought that there would have been a game this season where he would rush for 121 yards. And I asked him the other night. Do you was it in the game plan? Did you kind of have a feel that tonight could be your night? And he said, honestly, no. He just kept getting the ball, and it was kind of a situation where he's going with the hot hand, like Cliff likes to do. But I mean, how unusual is that for not just for Texas Tech, but for any program to have? Okay, your leading rusher in game 1 was DeLeon Ward. In game 2 was Lamar, and that's touchdowns for everybody.
It was Jet Duffy who actually led you in rushing.
That's right, yeah. And and then you have 3 different guys that all run for 2 touchdowns. And then in week 3 after Houston, everybody's fired up about Deshaun Henry because he goes 24 carries for a little guy, 111 yards, 4 touchdowns, 7 catches. And then the other night it's, hey,
everybody in Felton comes up.
Hey, you remember DeMarcus Felton? He's back. I mean,
he did that mostly in the second half. I think he had 2 carries in the first half, and he had
8 yards.
Yeah, and he had 10 for 110 or 112, whatever it was. I'm math challenged, y'all know on the site. But he had a lot of yards, most of it after halftime, and I think that's something we've seen the last 2 weeks, where this offensive line has worn down the opposing defense. So that's something I think to watch moving forward, Don.
Yeah, and I was going to say, and to finish the thought though, but. You've kind of, I think, been an advocate for us. SaRodorick Thompson, I mean, he finished this for about 50-something yards, but there were some big, tough carries that he was cliche grown man.
He is. He looks.
I mean,
he looks
like
the part.
man.
He does. I mean, he does.
But again, just to follow up the thought, where do you have 5 running backs, and they all kind of, one week it's this guy, and it's this guy, and it's the other guy, and it's this guy over here. That's kind of unusual, but it's certainly something that they've benefited by.
I think it speaks to a healthy offense, healthy offensive line, and we'll look to see if they can keep that going this week against, you know, another ranked opponent, another tough Big 12 opponent when number 12 West Virginia comes to town, 11 a.m. at the Jones. Don, as always, man, I really appreciate it. I always enjoy talking with you.
Yeah, no problem. Tell Joe to get back soon.
All right. Thank y'all for watching, and until next time.